At the height of the medieval world, in the heart of Baghdad, there stood a place of unrivaled knowledge and discovery. A place where ancient wisdom was preserved and expanded, where scholars from all backgrounds came together to push the boundaries of human understanding. This was the House of Wisdom, Bait al-Hikmah, one of the greatest intellectual institutions in history. It was here, over 1,000 years ago, that the foundations of modern mathematics, medicine, engineering, and astronomy were laid. A golden age of science, centuries before the European Renaissance, flourished under the banner of Islam, bridging the knowledge of the ancient past to the discoveries of the future. But how did this grand institution come to be? Who were the brilliant minds behind its success? And why did it all come to an abrupt and tragic end? To understand the rise of the House of Wisdom, we must first journey back to the foundations of an empire. Part 1. The Rise of the Abbasids. In the early 8th century, the Islamic world was growing rapidly. From the Iberian Peninsula in the west to the borders of India in the east, a vast and diverse civilization had emerged. But with expansion came the need for administration, governance, and intellectual refinement. The Abbasid Caliphate, which seized power in 750 AD, sought to rule not just through military might, but through knowledge. Unlike the Umayyads, who focused on conquest, the Abbasids turned their attention towards scholarship, philosophy, and science. It was Caliph al-Mansur, the second ruler of the Abbasid dynasty, who laid the groundwork for an intellectual empire. In 762 AD, he established Baghdad as the new capital, a city that would become the beating heart of global learning. Within a century, Baghdad grew into the largest city in the world, but it was under the rule of Caliph Harun al-Rashid and his son, Caliph al-Ma'mun, that the city would reach its intellectual zenith. Al-Ma'mun, a deeply philosophical and scientifically curious ruler, sought to gather the greatest minds from across the world. Inspired by Greek, Persian, and Indian scholars, he envisioned a place where knowledge would be collected, translated, debated, and expanded upon. Thus, the House of Wisdom was born, a library, a university, a research institute, and an academy all in one. Part 2. The Translation Movement. The first and perhaps most vital step in the House of Wisdom's mission was the translation movement. By the early 9th century, many of the great works of antiquity had been lost to Europe. The knowledge of Plato, Aristotle, Ptolemy, Hippocrates, and Archimedes had faded into obscurity. But in the Islamic world, these texts were rediscovered and preserved. Scholars at the House of Wisdom, many of them Christian, Jewish, and Zoroastrian thinkers, were commissioned to translate these ancient works into Arabic. One of the greatest translators was Hunayn ibn Ishaq, a Nestorian Christian who spoke Syriac, Greek, and Arabic fluently. He meticulously translated Galen's medical texts and Plato's philosophical writings, ensuring that this knowledge survived for future generations. The works of Euclid, Pythagoras, and Archimedes were also translated, providing the foundation for advances in geometry, physics, and engineering. This vast intellectual endeavor laid the groundwork for a new scientific revolution, one that would soon expand beyond mere translation into original thought and groundbreaking discovery. Part 3. The Age of Scientific Discovery. The House of Wisdom was more than just a place of preservation. It was a crucible of innovation. Among its greatest minds was al-Khwarizmi, a Persian mathematician whose work would change the world forever. His book, the compendious book on calculation by completion and balancing, introduced a new form of mathematics, algebra. Algebra provided a system for solving complex equations and laid the foundation for modern mathematics. His name, al-Khwarizmi, would later be Latinized into algorithm, a concept that governs modern computing today. Another revolutionary thinker was Ibn al-Haytham, a physicist and astronomer whose studies of optics led to the invention of the camera obscura, the precursor to modern photography. His book of optics would later inspire Renaissance thinkers like Kepler and Newton. In the field of medicine, scholars such as Al-Razi and Ibn Sina made groundbreaking contributions. Al-Razi identified smallpox and measles as distinct diseases centuries before European medicine. Ibn Sina's medical encyclopedia, the Canon of Medicine, would become the standard medical textbook in Europe for over 500 years. In astronomy, the House of Wisdom scholars refined the works of Ptolemy, improving models of the solar system and laying the groundwork for what would later become the heliocentric model. From the concept of zero to the scientific method, the scholars of the House of Wisdom were pioneers in nearly every field of study. Part 4. Engineering and Invention. While knowledge expanded in the abstract, Islamic engineers were transforming ideas into reality. One of the most remarkable figures of this era was Al-Jazari, an inventor and mechanical engineer whose designs predated the European Industrial Revolution by centuries. His work included the crankshaft, a crucial component in modern engines, the mechanical water clock, capable of measuring time with incredible precision, automated devices that mimicked robots, centuries before Leonardo da Vinci's sketches of automata. Meanwhile, the Banu Musa brothers, a trio of scholars, created programmable devices and even an early prototype of a steam-powered machine. These inventions showcase the technological sophistication of the Islamic Golden Age, a legacy that would later inspire European engineers. Part 5. The Fall of the House of Wisdom. For centuries, Baghdad and the House of Wisdom stood as the pinnacle of global knowledge. But in 1258, disaster struck. The Mongol Empire under Hulagu Khan invaded Baghdad. The city, once home to 1 million people, was besieged and destroyed. The House of Wisdom was burned to the ground. Legend says that the Tigris River ran black with ink as thousands of manuscripts were thrown into the waters. Centuries of accumulated knowledge vanished overnight. With the destruction of the House of Wisdom, an era came to an end. The Islamic world, once the center of global learning, began a slow intellectual decline. Part 6. The Legacy of the House of Wisdom. Though the House of Wisdom was lost, its influence endured. During the European Renaissance, Arabic translations of Greek texts resurfaced in Spain and Sicily, reintroducing lost knowledge to the West. Scholars like Copernicus, Galileo, and Newton built upon the work of Islamic thinkers, proving that knowledge transcends borders and faiths. The House of Wisdom's greatest contribution was not just the preservation of ancient texts, but the spirit of inquiry, the belief that science and reason could unlock the mysteries of the universe. Today, in the modern age of artificial intelligence, quantum physics, and space exploration, we still owe a debt to the scholars of Baghdad. Their legacy lives on in every mathematical equation, every scientific breakthrough, and every discovery that pushes the boundaries of human knowledge. The House of Wisdom may be gone, but its spirit remains. And the great question lingers: what will the next age of wisdom bring?